Interesting. Well, hello, beautiful, powerful, everyday women of the world. Welcome to the Startup Stories podcast, where the ambitious, everyday woman is heard, held, and served in life and in business. Relatable stories to keep you sane, grounded, and growing as you expand yourself and deliver your purpose to the world, and done so in the easiest way possible. Today on the show, I have the beautiful and accomplished Jensen Savage, who's a powerhouse in strategic marketing. She's received she's recognized now for award-winning expertise and a track record of generating a remarkable ROI, return on investment, for service-based businesses. This was really cool, Jensen, when I was reading about the service-based businesses that you serve, and we'll bring some of that out, but like they're in the healthcare and in different industries that we, as online coaches, whatever, don't often talk about. So I love that different portfolio and bringing in
Mhm.
what trends and habits and things that you see in those industries. Jensen founded Savage Growth Partners, and like, what an awesome name, by the way, right? Like, do you just wake up and you're like, F yeah, Jensen Savage is on the go,
Just wake up feeling savage every day.
right? So her work's been organically featured in highly accredited media outlets, you guys, like Forbes, Yahoo Finance, Wired, Inc. She's known for her hands-on leadership, strategic insight, and dedication to results. So definitely a marketing expert. And now you've built up this agency, and there's only three of you that are running it. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we have strategic partners that we bring in, and so
Mm,
they own their own sort of companies that they do that I also bring in based on kind of the deals that we have going on.
mhm.
But I also have a full in-house marketing team in addition to that too.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have strategic partners, and then we also have
Okay.
in-house folks as well.
Okay, amazing. So that's a pretty cool structured system to hold the space for everything that you do. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I want to know about you. I want to know about Jensen and what did you dream of as a little girl? And are you living your dream life now? What was the origin story to get to this place?
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting origin story. So I kind of always had this desire to be in the business world, and I didn't really know what it was when I was a kid. I've talked about this a little bit before in other podcasts that I've been on, but I always kind of had this entrepreneurial spirit about me
Mhm,
that I didn't really put a name to until I was older.
mhm,
But like a funny example is so when I was a kid, my dad was a real estate agent and he worked with foreclosed houses a lot.
mhm.
And I would go with him to these foreclosed houses and we would like take pictures and whatnot. And I built a portfolio and I didn't even remember building this portfolio until I was back at my childhood house as an adult and I'm going through all my childhood stuff. And I found this folder, written in my little kid handwriting is like Jensen's foreclosure portfolio. And I had like
Wow.
a portfolio of foreclosed houses that I was just like interested in. And it's just funny because like real estate is like a kind of like an interest of mine to this day. And it's just funny because it's like, what kind of kid that's in like fourth or fifth grade cares about foreclosures, like real
Right?
estate? But I was always kind of like that, like interested in that kind of realm. And
Mhm,
so as I grew older and older, I wanted to be a lawyer. So for many years, I wanted to be a
mhm,
lawyer. I specifically wanted to work in corporate law. I went to University of Minnesota with the intention of becoming a corporate lawyer. That was the track that I was going to take. I was dead set on this. I was just, yeah, that's the direction I was going to take my life in.
yeah.
And it was funny because when I was in college, I actually I had a volunteer thing that I did, and basically what it was different. It was actually through one of my philosophy classes. Different
Mhm,
students would go and work with elderly people in the area,
mhm,
and really just like make friends with them, hang
mhm,
out, do
mhm,
things with them, maybe like help them with stuff around the house. But
mhm.
really, just the whole point was kind of bridging the gap between the younger generation and the older generation in the area.
Okay.
And so the elderly couple that I was matched with were both retired lawyers. very
Mm-hmm.
successful lawyers,
Mm-hmm.
like went to Harvard Law, extremely smart, extremely well accomplished in the Minneapolis area as well.
Mm-hmm.
And just talking about law in general, I kind of realized that that's not what I wanted to do. You know, it seemed very structured and rigid, and like there was an old way of doing things, and that just totally does not coincide with the way that I think or operate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I quickly realized, I was like, yeah, I don't want to do law. And so from there I kind of put that idea out of my head, and I had already been working in social media for a few years, kind of just on the side,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of social media content creation, that sort of thing. And I kind of quickly realized from there, there's so much more to the marketing world. And so it was kind of just happenstance that I had some experience and exposure to the marketing world.
Right.
And I also was at this point where I was like giving up on this other idea that I had for
Yeah.
my whole life. And I was like totally sold on this and completely
Right.
changed direction. Um, and so, yeah, from there, I just kind of fell into marketing,
Mm.
fell in love with it, and realized that business and marketing and being an entrepreneur was definitely the path I wanted to take, because it kind of fused the things that I liked about pursuing corporate law, like
Okay.
being in business and being in that business world, while
Mm-hmm.
also having kind of the freedom and the creativity and, the different day-to-day life that being an entrepreneur and being in business in general kind of provides. And so, yeah, that's kind of the high level overview of my path.
Yeah. I love that because, you had an idea in your head for a long time, like you said, about how this was going to go. And then when it was met with some very experienced kind of uh, on the other side of it, right? That elderly couple, you got to really have more data to see whether or not this was something that was going to fit.
Hmm.
And now you can play in systems and structure with a lot more creativity to your heart's
Hmm.
content, right?
Yeah.
And a very organic shift in that. But was there a bit like of an identity crisis for you when all of a sudden you realized law, social media marketing? Like, who am I and what does this mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%. And for a while there, it was kind of just marketing was the thing that I was doing at the time, because I
Yeah,
didn't know
yeah,
what direction I wanted to take my life in. Because that's a big shift to go
yeah.
from, you know, moving out of state to go to school for this thing, and then
Mhm.
deciding this thing that I've had in my mind for years that I was going to do. I was committed to this. And then I just like all of that just falling away and
Yeah,
completely, just just changing your mind on such a
yeah.
huge thing is a big thing. And so it was kind of, the process was definitely rocky in coming to a point where, like where I am now, where I own my own business,
Uh-huh.
because I had a marketing career before that as well. And so there was kind of this whole evolution that happened over those years mentally,
Mhm.
to where I came to the conclusion that it's like, okay, I love marketing and I love business growth and I want to own my own business, So this was like
Mhm.
a thing that was like years in the making. It wasn't just like, I'm not
Mhm.
going to do law, like I'm just going to switch to marketing. It was something that took kind of years to come to terms with and really kind of
Mhm.
crystallize in my mind, like, what do I actually want my future to look like? So like 30 years down the line,
Yeah,
and looking back,
yeah.
I want to look back and say, I did exactly what I wanted to do. And it's like,
Mhm.
what do I have to do today to make it so that I feel that way in 30 years? And so that was, yeah, it was a long kind of rocky evolution.
Yeah, well, that's how you can really kind of put in the heavy lifting to find out
Yeah.
how to put the pieces together. So did you stay in school, finish school, still get a degree or
Yeah. Yeah. So I had left school at University of Minnesota,
Mhm.
worked for a couple years, and I actually went back for my degree in business administration with a focus in marketing. So
Okay.
finished up my degree, kind of more focused on the direction that I took my life.
Okay.
Hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so then where did Savage growth come from? Like what led you, I'm gonna make a couple of assumptions that maybe you got a few jobs here and there and you were trucking along, maybe starting to collect some clients and then
Mhm.
decided to go all in on something of your own.
Yeah. So, a little bit of backstory kind of in my career. So, I've worked as a marketing director and leader for various companies, mostly in the service-based realm, from, fitness to finance. And I loved the process of, especially coming in on smaller companies, being, the first marketer or
Mhm.
a member of a very small marketing team.
Mhm.
There's so much change and impact that you can drive so quickly. And I just thought that was so fun. I loved that.
Right.
So that was a big part of the reason that I designed Savage Growth Partners the way that I did. But another reason that I've developed Savage Growth Partners the way that I have is I also saw this need in the marketplace for something like Savage Growth Partners that's not really being addressed by any other company out there.
Right.
So, kind of for a bit of context, at Savage Growth Partners, we really are partners in growth. It's in the name.
Mhm.
We are, we're in the day to day. We kind of
Mhm.
fuse the best parts of a consultancy firm and an agency. We
Yeah.
give the advice and the strategy, but we're also in the weeds executing, um, and really looking to move the needle. And we also help businesses to, I basically say it's like the three S's, like sustainable,
Mhm.
scalable, and sellable.
Mhm.
Those are kind of like the three pillars that we base all of our strategies on. So scalable, you're able to grow and continuously reinvest in the business, keep
Mhm.
going. Sustainable, you're not just doing, little gimmicky growth
Right.
things, or your revenue's one place this month, another place this month. It's something that's actually becoming an asset. That kind of ties into being sellable as well.
Mhm.
Um, and when I say sellable, uh, is some business owners might be like, oh, well, I don't want to sell. But being sellable is more than just wanting to sell, because you still, regardless of if you want to sell your business today,
Mhm.
you want your business to be structured in a way that it's sellable.
Mhm.
Because think about it, when somebody's looking to buy your business,
Yeah.
they want it to be easy to operate. They want it to not have key man risk. So if you step out of the business today, the business isn't just going to go crumbling down.
Yeah.
They want everything to be documented. They want your finances to be clean, all that stuff. And it's like, well, even if you don't sell your business, you benefit from having your
Yeah.
business be sellable so that it's
Yeah.
easier to operate. But also, even if you don't want to sell today, maybe 10 years down the road,
Mhm.
you're going to benefit from it being sellable if you do say, yeah, I do want to sell. I'm having a life change or whatever. So we get a lot more involved. Than other options out there, especially for the size of company that we work with. So we work
Mhm.
with companies that are usually between like 250,000 to $5 million in revenue, sometimes higher. But this kind of area of the market, they're too small for private equity firms to get involved with normally.
Mhm.
But they're also too big for the founder to try to figure everything out on their own while
Yeah.
also running every other aspect of the business.
Yeah.
And so there's kind of like this underserved part of the market that I was like, these people need guidance with marketing and sales and operations. Um, because I saw in my experience as a marketing director, all of these functions are like extremely intertwined. You cannot
Mhm.
have marketing that's not connected to sales, that's not connected to operations. Otherwise, you're literally springing leaks the whole way. And so I'm
Right.
like, there has to be something that kind of
Yeah.
like synthesizes all these business functions for
Yeah.
maximum profitability. And so yeah, that was, I mean, long-winded way to say that was kind of my process of creating Savage Growth Partners. I wanted to be kind of more than a marketing agency.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I just wanted to be a full on getting in the weeds with partners,
Yeah.
growth partner.
Yeah, well, the passion is there. Like your face lit up as you spoke about all of that, right?
Yeah.
And it is a more holistic approach to supporting a smaller business
Yeah.
in reaching their next level because there are a lot of moving pieces. And if they have to hire three different companies or consultants to help them with everything, then they have to also coordinate all of those together
Hmm.
or come to a one-stop shop
Mm-hmm.
and really have somebody who's invested in them rather than just trying to, grow their own business or get a
Mm-hmm.
sensational testimonial or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it sounds like with your process, it really elevates that business's functionality,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which
Yeah.
that's the golden ticket to take it to the next level. Those three
Mm-hmm.
pillars you talked about are key. And yeah, sellable, often business is your baby and you can't ever imagine giving it up. But even if it's your baby, you have a routine, you have basic care needs, you have structure around it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that business owners tend to not be as good at because they have the creativity and then lack the administration. But then it's
Mm-hmm.
not really a business if you can't step away from it. It's gotta run on its own. And then that also gives the business owner and or the staff the ability to take the foot off the gas,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah, and
shift
I think
around.
especially with the company sizes that we work with, you see that, more than you would at, $100 million company.
Sure.
Um, you see that kind of attachment to the business. And there's nothing wrong with having attachment to the
Of
business, but you have
course
to
not.
understand the business is kind of its own entity. It should be an
Yes.
asset and not,
Yes.
a job or your
Yes.
baby. And treating it more
Yes.
like an asset that needs to be optimized and
Yes.
systematized is going to serve
Mhm.
you way more than
Mhm.
just, yeah, basically having a glorified job.
Right? Yeah. Well, and also that I always kind of have a hard time articulating this, so maybe you can even go further with that statement because the business should run on its own. And so, like, let's say Home Depot or Target, as a giant franchise, have a, a recipe that can be implemented in any city at any time. And as long as it's staffed well, it can function. And
Mhm,
so we kind of want to model off of that to take the pressure off of ourselves so that it's more spacious and then that the business, like what I hear you saying, is that it can grow more on its own, right? That it really takes on a life of its own and gets going. So
mhm,
I love, love, love that. And for especially women who are just starting a business of any kind and doing it maybe on the side of their desk, the better that you can structure it, the more it will serve you in the limited amount of time that's available for it, right? So,
mhm,
automations or being organized. I heard this woman say a quote once, and it was just so fabulous. She says, "I'm not stressed because I'm organized." And that's kind of what we're talking about here is getting things
mhm,
into a flow that's repeatable, and that, can be handed off, and that gives life, and that's where a business can take off into momentum.
mhm.
So, Jensen, would you say that you've niched down with Savage Growth Partners?
In a sense, not so much to where it's like we only work with plumbing businesses,
Yeah.
but in the sense that we only work with service-based businesses around a specific size. And, we have criteria that we look at when we're talking to potential clients where it's like, what
Mm,
problems are they having?
hmm
Then we even, we assess the mindset of the clients that we work with because it's really important,
hmm
we can come in and we can tell you exactly what you need to do. We can execute, but we can't do absolutely everything. So it's absolutely critical that the people we work with also, have the same long-term vision for the company that we can all kind of align on.
hmm
Because at that point, it's pretty easy for us to take it to the next level. But, on the flip side, it's virtually impossible, even if you're doing all the right things, if somebody's like, yeah, I don't know, that's just too much growth, or I actually do want to work in the business all the time. It's like there's just a fundamental misalignment there.
hmm
Um, but yeah, so niche down as far as, size, problems that we address, overall kind of business model, yes. But and that's kind of by design too. I've uh a huge part of something I love about my company is that we do work with so many different types of businesses, and it's fun, it's exciting. We get to address so many different uh like just types of people, and there's just so many cool opportunities you get by working with different types of businesses that you don't get if you run a firm that's just dedicated to helping, gyms.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that's kind of by design because I
Mhm.
really enjoy that kind of varied day to day that I kind of mentioned earlier. I
Yeah.
like not having the just do the same thing every day,
Yeah.
like repeat the same thing. I like having, new challenges and things like that. So yeah, I think that kind of answers your question.
So the different service-based businesses, which I'd love for you to give us some examples of, activate your creative problem solving
Hmm.
because they're in different markets providing different services. So like you mentioned plumbers, but then you had like I think health spas or something like that on the list
Uh-huh.
and other ones. And so you get to learn about these different industries too and see what you can do to elevate any one of your clients in that field, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and it's kind of cool because, we get to work with all these different businesses and challenges, but at the same time, service businesses at their core are largely the same. You've got to get leads, you've got to close them predictably, you've got to serve with excellence, and then rinse and repeat. Keep
Mhm.
those clients that you do have, start to build the business up from there, get new leads, all this stuff. But basically, the process and the core principles are the same. So in that way, there's systems and tactics that we can implement in businesses, even that are across different industries, that'll
Mhm.
still work because the fundamental business model and the principles are the same.
Mhm.
Um, so so yeah, that's kind of the interesting part is I think, when people think about niches, it's like, well, you've got to just work with gyms or whatever. But
Mhm.
I think it really kind of depends on what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, service is service.
Mhm.
And like I said, we've niched down to service specifically. We don't do, products or
Mhm.
e-commerce or anything like that, because that actually is a completely different ball game.
Mhm.
But yeah, so service-based businesses, yeah, they're fun to work with. It would just kind of came naturally too, because my experience as a marketing director, I'd primarily work with service businesses too.
Okay.
And so yeah, that's kind of the evolution of that.
Okay. So then take us into some of those fundamentals. What do we need to focus on?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, really, if you just think of it like this process of getting leads,
Mhm.
converting them predictably, and delivering your service with excellence,
Mhm.
those are kind of the key principles that you need to understand in order to grow a service business. Now, kind of peeling back the layers on all those things, yes, there's a billion other kind of sub things under that, right? Like
Yeah.
getting leads, it's like, okay, well, like, how do I get leads? How much can I afford to pay to acquire a lead?
Mhm.
How do I close leads?
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
how do I deliver in a way that makes sense? And all these different things. But kind of at its core, those are the three big things that you need to keep in mind. But yeah, so for all the little details, that's when you really get into needing to sit down and figure out your business financials and things like that. And that's
Mhm.
where I get kind of excited because that's why I created Savage Growth Partners,
Mhm.
because all that stuff's so important to understand how those different pieces connect to each other,
Yeah.
right? Like you can't have just getting leads. Like you have to understand, okay, what's our profit margin? And now it's like you're looking at operations. Now you're looking at finance,
Mhm.
And so that's kind of the fun part is you talk about marketing and sales and operations, and all of those are critical pieces that all kind of lean on each other.
Mhm. Yeah. And you implemented those in your own business as
Mhm.
well. And so what are you doing in your marketing and what have you found as your magic recipe to make that flow for Savage Growth Partners?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a huge proponent of systems,
Mhm.
and pretty much every single thing that we do within the company is documented and put to a system. And that's another thing that I am very bullish on
Mm.
implementing in clients' businesses as well. I'm like,
Mhm.
you need to have a repeatable, reliable process for everything that you're doing, because it makes things faster, it
Mhm.
makes things more predictable, and
Mhm.
to the point we were talking about earlier, it makes things sellable, right?
Mhm.
Because if I can just hand you a rule book or a guidebook and say, hey, this is how we get leads, sorry about
Hands
that.
break.
Yeah, right. Jeez. Sorry about that.
Oh, no sweat.
Um, but yeah, if I can hand you the rule book and
Mhm.
say this is
Yeah.
exactly how we get leads, here's how we close them, it becomes so easy in
Mhm.
comparison to just doing things fly by night and
Yeah.
shooting from the hip and hoping that something hits. And
Yeah.
so that is a big part of our success, and it's something
Mhm.
that's become even more critical as we've gotten bigger and bigger and bigger,
Okay.
because your scalability is going to be limited by how systematized your business is.
Yes, of
Mhm.
course. Yeah, if McDonald's had to make one order at a time, they'd be pretty limited to how many
Yeah.
people they could serve. They wouldn't reach the billions
Mhm.
in any short order.
Yeah, and to your point earlier, that's another thing that when you were talking about expansion, that's another reason why having systems is critical.
Yeah.
I've worked with so many businesses where it's been a med spa that's expanded out to multiple locations, or
Mhm.
I had mentioned doing work in Vancouver. I have a job
Mhm.
training service company that I work with that we are based out of Toronto originally, and now we've expanded to Vancouver as well.
Mhm.
And so it's like, because we identified the overall structure, it's like, okay, we can put this here and it'll work, and we can make minor tweaks and we can put this here and it'll work. And and
Mhm.
that's how you create that
Mhm.
scalability, is being able to rely on those systems.
Yeah, amazing.
Mhm.
So, Jensen, what's changed in you as a woman throughout your entrepreneurial journey? Are you meeting the vision that you cast for yourself so far? And what are you noticing about yourself as you grow more and more into the CEO of this company?
Yeah, that's a deep and great question. I think it's always a process, and that's how I really see, I guess, everything. But I'm kind of stepping into it every day more and
Mhm.
more.
Mhm.
And I think a huge part of that was coming to terms with who I am and what I wanted for my future. I
Mhm.
think keeping the end goal in mind is a big part of why I'm able to do the things that I do on a day-to-day basis and get through stressful times. And it's just, I don't know, kind of stepping into my truest self instead of trying to kind of fit myself into a box of what
Mhm.
other people wanted, or what societally expected of me, or the easy way.
Mhm.
A part of my journey too was I've built a marketing agency, just a standard marketing agency before, and I grew it pretty large pretty quickly. I grew it to $30,000 within the first month. And
Mhm.
so I had success out the gate, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. And I realized, I'm like, because I had identified this problem of marketing not being the only function that
Mhm.
was critical to small business success, I was like, I don't feel like it's genuine to run a marketing agency kind of knowing this. And so
Mhm.
that was a big part of the evolution into switching the complete business model, which
Mhm.
that's scary, because the business that I run
Yeah.
now, like I said, nobody else is doing this. So
Mhm.
now I've entered from standard business to kind of almost startup territory of,
Mhm.
this is a completely different thing that's ever been done before, and that's
Right.
terrifying.
Right.
And so yeah, but it is, I would just say, if I were to boil it down to anything, it would just be a constant process
Mhm.
of small improvements in my own mindset and behaviors over the day to day, and just keeping that end goal in mind.
So you're holding a lot of responsibility, and it sounds like a robust client portfolio too,
Hmm.
right? And so
Hmm.
you have to really trust yourself to lead that and to lead the team and to build a company that can serve with that client excellence that you desire and demand out of your own company. So
Hmm.
how do you um, keep yourself full and growing? Like, are you in masterminds or, doing any professional or personal development type stuff, or how do you keep that growth mindset in an expansive state?
Yeah, so I'm a part of a couple of different groups of entrepreneurs and whatnot, like different communities where we, share wins and
Mhm,
stories and
mhm,
tactics and all that kind of stuff. So that's definitely helpful. I also just read a lot of books.
mhm.
I'm just a lifelong learner, to be honest,
Yeah.
not even just related to mindset, but also just everything. And that
Mhm,
stuff just learning gets me very excited.
mhm,
And so I'm always just kind of looking for ways to level up, I guess. Um, so those are some of the biggest ways that I continue to evolve. I'm just always seeking out new information and perspectives. And so really kind of wherever I can get that, I'm open to it. Like I'm always talking to other business owners too. And it's like
mhm,
every time I talk to a business owner, I swear I take away at least one helpful piece of information,
mhm.
whether that's, a tactic that they tried or a mindset that they've adopted. I
Mhm.
always take away something just by kind of absorbing it, from
Yeah,
other people. So
yeah,
I think that's a huge part of it is just getting connected with other people and just be willing to learn from them
yeah,
and be open minded.
yeah,
I think that's another big thing instead of being really ego driven and like, oh,
yeah.
I know the best way to do this. Like
That's right. Mhm.
I'm so talented. I'm the best,
Yeah,
whatever. It's like, there's business owners that have much smaller businesses than me that have, way less experience, quote unquote,
right.
than me. But it's like they have experiences that I'll never have. They have
Mhm,
perspectives that I never considered. And so it's like
mhm.
just learn from everybody all the time
Yeah.
and you'll kind of be surprised at the evolution that you kind of make in your own mindset based off of what you absorb from other people.
That right there is so exquisite. And I just want to lean into it a little bit because this is a pressureless and like always open and willing state of being. And it lacks comparison. It lacks
Mhm.
self-judgment. And
Mhm.
that, I think, is like the deepest state of embodiment that you can bring to life in general, never
Mhm.
mind leverage for business development, business growth, right? Is like we're all equal in the sense of our value and our worth, and we
Mhm.
all have something to contribute to each other so that we can all do more
Mhm.
and be more, right?
Mhm.
So there's no competition. It's pure, not necessarily collaboration, but like collective well-being that we can
Mhm.
all participate in each other's growth and each other's success, and that we're not worried that because somebody else is doing this or is doing that, that it means anything, that there's
Yeah.
value to be gained from it. So that was
Mhm.
really well articulated. And I think that's such a critical, again, state of being to work towards on the daily. Then you're not under threat. Then you're not
Mhm.
hijacking your nervous system. Then you're not constantly reacting, with scarcity or concern. You're just like, oh, cool, yeah, oh, cool, yeah, yeah, cool,
Yeah.
cool, this, in an exchange, in a mutual exchange everywhere you go. And that's how you can really, come into confidence and uh, great certainty of your capabilities, and then keep adding to it to build your company bigger and bigger. So
Mhm.
I have a couple of other questions as we kind of start to come into this, and maybe I'll just put them both out, and you can choose which one to answer first. Is what's coming next for you now? Like, you were a startup. You if you like the terms, like an industry disruptor with the marketing agency with this
Love it. I
holistic,
love it.
right? And that's, if we're doing something really out there, I think that's the rabbit hole to go down, because it means that it's the right one. The more uncomfortable and uncertain and uncommon it is,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
where the true ingenuity lies, right? So
Right.
it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to be that guy who gets to do
Yeah.
that thing.
Yeah.
Great. But somebody's got to go first.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So having done all of that, do you foresee Savage Growth Partners carrying on as it is, or do you have what's your next 15-year vision even for it? And then the other question, maybe to wrap up the interview after, is who are you outside of Savage Growth Partners? Like who is just Jensen Savage as a day-to-day woman?
Yeah, love it. Okay. Yeah. So first I'll address kind of the trajectory of Savage Growth Partners. So
Mhm,
I think the trajectory that we're on is great. So really the only thing I kind of see changing is just looping in more strategic partners. Like I said,
mhm,
with the clients that we work with, I'm always looping in industry leaders that are extremely good at what they do, that can
mhm,
provide perspective and experience that I can't provide as,
mhm,
somebody that's more focused on business growth and marketing. I have people that I work with that are incredible when it comes to finances and numbers. And it's like my
mhm.
understanding of that is not even near,
Okay.
where these people and their experiences are. So
Mhm,
looping in even more kind of prolific and skilled people.
mhm,
That's one part of it. Another part of it is just being able to take the company larger and larger so we can help more small service businesses. Because, like I
mhm.
said, this isn't a part of the market that is underserved. Their options are limited,
Mhm,
and their options frankly aren't very good because, like I said, marketing agencies a lot of the time, they're focused more on execution, which is fine, but you have to
mhm,
have strategy behind it. And so
mhm.
if the business owner is not guiding them on strategy, a lot of the time they're just shooting from the hip, or maybe they have a marketing strategy, but it's like if you don't understand all of the business behind the curtain, your
Mhm.
marketing strategy is not going to operate with excellence. Um, and so it's like their options are kind of, in most cases, I'm not poo pooing all
No, no.
marketing agencies, but in most cases, their options with business growth are kind of lackluster. And like you mentioned earlier, they're not comprehensive to where it's like, okay, if I need help with operations and sales and marketing, you're kind of piecemealing all these different services and vendors and hoping
Sure.
that they're good and then trying to, get them to communicate with your team, get them to communicate with each other. And maybe there's overlapping messages that it just makes it more confusing.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
and would it be fair to say, I'll just interject quickly too, that because it's really important to note the underserved market because generally they don't have the money that
mhm,
a company will want to get paid in order to deliver a service, right?
mhm,
So it is really brilliant to look at who's not getting what they need and deserve and
yeah.
meet them in their playing field so that they can grow, which is good for everybody.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's exactly it. And that's kind of what the word partners comes back to.
Yeah,
We're invested
yeah,
in their
yeah,
growth. We
yeah,
get a piece of their upside growth. So it's basically like investing in a company when they're small and
yeah.
knowing like we're going to come in, we know that our systems work. We know that we can
Right.
take this to the next level and we're all going to be more successful as a result, right? Like we're all going to
Mhm,
make more money. We're all going to be
mhm,
more fulfilled.
mhm,
And so that's kind of the exciting part is like you said, it's
mhm.
under underserved. Um, and so
And
you have
they
all these,
yeah, like,
yeah,
they deserve it, and they want it, and if they can't
yeah,
get to it and then I love that, like, I just had this image of course, the saying, "Skin in the game," but you fuse in with them, right? You
yeah,
really become invested, so that they feel like you're not just taking their money and trying to do a thing, like you're
hmm,
very much side by side with them to elevate them.
hmm,
'Cause a business owner will take the company so far and then you plateau, like, that's just natural. You
hmm,
need a different coach or a different somebody with better skills and somebody who can
yeah.
coordinate, a high level of professionalism and proficiency in those different areas of expertise that you talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And that's a huge part of the reason why I wanted to build Savage Growth Partners the way that I
Mhm.
have is that I didn't
Yeah,
want to be transactional.
yeah,
I
yeah,
it was made abundantly clear to me I could make a great living
sure,
just doing transactional marketing.
sure.
I didn't want to do that. I wanted to devote my life. It's like we spend so much of our life working, especially me. I work all the time, but
Okay.
it's like I'm excited to
Yeah,
do it
yeah,
because I am literally helping people. I am changing the trajectory of people's lives. Like I have worked with businesses that wouldn't have been able to break through revenue plateaus. Like you mentioned, they would have been stuck at a certain size. And it's like
Mhm.
now they're expanding, they're making
Mhm.
more money for their family, they're bringing on
Mhm.
employees who they're
Mhm.
paying well and are giving, great work life to, all these different things that
Yeah.
just come as like a catalyst. And it's like, how could I not want to work and be
Mhm.
excited about that? It's like that transcends money
Mhm.
by, so much. It's like money is great,
Yeah.
whatever, of course, everybody's
Yeah.
in business and wants to make money, but it's like being able to have that impact and have work that you're like, yeah, if I show up today and I meet a business owner that didn't have access to anything like this before, like I can change their life.
Mhm.
That's amazing. Like that's what gets me fired
Yeah.
up.
That's your
So
fulfillment, right? That's the
yeah,
fulfillment of your
exactly.
heart and your soul right there in action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's not something that a lot of people realize that your soul is going to crave until you're at a space or until you're at a place where money, I guess, is no object. It's like when
Mhm.
you're coming from a place of like financial scarcity, you're like, oh God, if I just made a bunch of money, I just would never care about anything ever again. I'd be fine,
Mhm.
blah, blah, blah. But it's like, at least for me, I crave purpose more than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
It's like once your financial needs are met, I mean, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
Yeah.
It's like once your basic needs are met, then you start to search for fulfillment.
Yeah. And I'll
Mhm.
pull out of that just so the listeners really anchor into this, that Jensen, you led by true example of starting that first marketing company that made that 30 grand in a month, but then realized that it was out of alignment with your intrinsic values and who you
Mhm.
really are and what you identify with. And so you were willing to go first and create something way more fulfilling, meaningful for you, which now has become its own entity and is creating
Mhm.
all of these beautiful collateral benefits to the companies
Mhm.
that work with you. And that is self-leadership, that you can do anything to make money, but if you go higher and do the thing that's right and in your integrity and aligned with your values, you're going to go a lot further, and money will, show up, like you're saying, on the side of all of that to continue to support you. So that's very,
Mhm.
very powerful.
Yeah, I like to say money is a side effect.
Mhm.
I think, if you're just chasing money, it quickly becomes unfulfilling.
Yes.
Um, yeah, yeah. So I could go down a whole rabbit hole with that, but yeah, yeah. Ultimately, it was just kind of I felt it was kind of my duty to build a business
Yeah.
that aligned with my values, and
Yeah.
especially when I
Beautiful.
knew I had this idea and I spoke to so many business owners that
Mhm.
were like, I told them about the original idea and they're like, oh my God, like that is
Mhm.
incredible. Like that reaction from people
Mhm.
was so different from the conversations I had where I'm like, hey, I have a marketing agency. And it's like, yeah, of course we did great work. We got great results. But it's like something where it's like we are like business transformation specialists. Like
Yeah.
that's unique. That gets people
Mhm.
excited. That's never been done before. So that's what keeps me going. But answering your second question,
Yeah.
who is Jensen Savage as a human?
Yeah.
So I'm a lot of things. So I absolutely love nature. I am a You can catch me outside whenever possible. I absolutely love being outside. I love to hike. I love to kayak. I have 4 rescue dogs,
Mhm.
and a lot of my free time I spend volunteering with the
Mm.
rescue that I actually got 2 dogs of mine from.
Mhm.
So I have 3 Australian shepherds and a mutt. So
Wow.
my house is always
Yeah.
busy with with crazy, crazy dogs, and I love
Yeah.
it so much. They're like my kids.
Yeah.
I'm also a musician. I
Mm.
play guitar and sing.
Uh-huh.
So those are some of the things I do. Like I said, I'm also a lifelong learner. I'm
Mhm.
super into really any subject that I can sink my teeth into. So
Okay.
like psychology, science, history, true crime, anything
Mhm.
that I can just absorb, like nonfiction stuff. I'm
Yeah.
always reading some sort of nonfiction book. People actually tease me like I won't read fiction. I'm just like, oh, why would I read fiction? I don't know. I just like to
Mhm.
learn.
Mhm.
So I'm always hyper fixating on some random subject that I'm learning about at any given time.
Okay.
But yeah, other than that, I love antique shopping and I collect antiques as well. So
Oh,
so
fun.
yeah, those are some
Beautiful.
of the biggest things.
Beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
And is there anything coming up this year for you in life or business that you're super jazzed about, like a big event or trip or?
Um, Yeah, so going to be going to more events in the upcoming year, which is exciting. So I've done a couple of events locally, like going to different summits and whatnot near me, but it's never been something that I focused on
Okay.
within Savage Growth Partners. I've been to a bunch of industry conferences and stuff, working with other people's businesses, but now I'm going to be kind of focusing more on doing events for Savage Growth Partners,
Cool.
as Savage Growth
Cool.
Partners. And so
That's
a
awesome.
lot of exciting things like that coming up soon.
Wonderful. Right
Hmm.
on. Well, thanks. This was a beautiful conversation. Gave lots for my brain to chew on, and I know served the listeners. So we'll drop your links in the episode, and we'll find you on Facebook and LinkedIn. Is that right? Those are your
Yeah.
spots to
Yeah,
go
you
and
can
hang out
search
with
me up
you.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Brilliant. Well, thanks so much, Jensen. What a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.